This episode contains material that may be triggering to some individuals. Please check the show notes for more information and be mindful of your own mental health and comfort levels. Welcome to Quiet Confessions, a weekly mini episode where you and I get to hang out and just kind of share space for whatever's going on in my life. This week's going to be a little bit different. They say you should never meet your heroes because they'll disappoint you. But I met mine when I was 16, and I made a complete fool of myself. I was a shaking, awkward mess, a complete idiot, stumbling over my words because how do you tell a person in 30 seconds behind a merch table that they are the reason that you're still breathing? So, this week, I'm shamelessly using this space to try again. And while I highly doubt Brandi will ever hear this, there's always that glimmer of hope, right? So here goes. Brandi, as in Brandi Carlile, you don't know me. I'm just a voice in a sea of thousands and thousands of people singing your lyrics back to you. But for over 20 years, you have been the steady hand on my shoulder and the quiet voice in my head. I've spent much of my life in a body that feels like a house on fire. My childhood and teens were a storm of mental health mayhem and trauma that I'm not going to get lost in right now. Through early adulthood, figuring out my identity as a non-binary and queer individual, and navigating my first pregnancy, I found myself lost deep in a pitch black void too often to count. Now, in my late 30s, my life has been flipped completely on its head again. After having my youngest, I became disabled, chronically ill, and immune compromised. I spent weeks, even months, isolated in bedrooms or hospital rooms, watching the world and my own children move on without me. There were nights when the silence of being sick, mentally or physically, was too loud. And in those moments, I didn't put on a self-help podcast or a true crime podcast or any kind of podcast. I didn't look for a cure. I looked for your voice. I've leaned on the story when I needed reflection. Again today, when I've felt more like a burden than a person. The mother and you without me when I've felt completely disconnected from my role as a mom. And I've used the joke as a shield when the world felt too small for people like me and my neuro-sparkly family. Your voice has literally carried me through every major life event. From surgeries to road trips, late night conversations to OCD spirals, DIY concerts with my kids in the living room to suicidal ideation and psychiatric hospitalization. I can't count the number of times I softly sang Again Today or Little Blue at the suggestion of an especially kind nurse to help me find my way through the seemingly endless nights. You talk a lot in The Mother about sacrifice and the beauty inside the mess. Being a disabled mom is a specific kind of mess. It means relying on everyone else to carry the load I wish I could carry. And it comes with a heavy side of shame, guilt, and embarrassment. But your music reminds me that right isn't a straight line. You taught me that you can be mainstream and a misfit at the same time. You taught me that my broken parts aren't something to hide. They're the parts that let the light in. So, this is my desperate reach. I'm not 16 anymore. I'm not shaking. I'm not stumbling over my words. I'm a mom, a fighter, and a survivor. I wanted to tell you, even if this only ever lives in the airwaves of this podcast, that you saved my life. Not once, but hundreds of times over the last 20 plus years. Brandi, thank you for staying in the fight so that people like me have a soundtrack for ours. And listeners, thank you to everyone who has stuck around this long through my journey. I realize, again, this isn't our typical content, but I appreciate you holding space with me. Because after all, our stories don't mean anything if we've got no one to tell them to. Now go get a fresh water bottle, add your favorite flavor of electrolytes, and do something kind for yourself and someone you love today. And tell the person that means the world to you exactly that. I'll see you next week. Motherhood's messiest moments, we're airing them out.
Odd Moms on Call is the podcast where a no BS mom squad tackles parenting, politics, and everything in between.
It's like venting to your besties, but with mics.
Subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Buzzsprout and grab a seat at the table.